Susan B. Anthony lived an inspired and semi-difficult life. She established at an early age what she felt as the rights and wrongs of the world. She lived her entire life up to her last days fighting to correct those indifferences and injustices, not only towards women, but towards people in general. Her father built a cotton mill when she was 2 years old, employing 11 people. Those 11 employees boarded at the Anthony's house where her mother Lucy tended to their food and mending of clothing as needed. As his company grew, he employed more people and they became a relatively wealthy family. Unfortunately, her father Daniel would become her first view of women's inequality.
Daddy, if Sally Ann knows more about leaving than Elijah, why not make her an overseer?
Susan, it would never do to have a woman overseer in the mill.
Though Lucy Anthony was not Quaker, she willingly made the required changes to be able to marry Daniel and raise their children as Quaker. The Anthony children grew up understanding that it was forbidden to partake in things such as singing, dancing, and other actions inside and outside of the Anthony household. The Anthony children also grew up understanding and believing that women had a say in the ongoings of their lives and the lives of people around them. Her first job was at the age of 12 for 2 weeks working at her father's cotton mill. She earned $1.50 per week and spent that money on new coffee cups for her mother to show her appreciation for allowing Susan and her sister to take that job and help out her father. The Anthony family was described as a family that fostered a love of mankind that reached out spontaneously to help the needy, the unfortunate, and the oppressed, and this now became the driving force in her life. It led her to naturally seek ways and means to free the Negro from slavery and to turn to the temperance movement to wipe out the evil of drunkenness.
It is the right for all citizens to vote for all offices. Limits like municipal or school suffrage. Only then can women be individuals, not egos.
As men were the voters that had the power to change the laws, she aimed to attract them to her evening meetings, and usually they came, some seeking diversion and listening respectfully. Some of them scoffed and others condemned her for undermining the home, but many found her reasoning logical and by their questions put life into the meetings. A few even encouraged their wives to join the cause.
Both genders eat, sleep, hate, love, and desire alike. Everything that relates to the relations of the mind is common to both. If they're allowed to attend picnics, balls, dancing, and the opera together, it certainly won't hurt them to use the same chalk on a blackboard.
In 1866, she was nominated the head of the Working Women's Association. By 1869, she and Elizabeth Stanton founded the NWSA, the National Women's Suffrage Association. And then in 1871, Miss Susan B. Anthony gave the most epic response with an interview to the statement of women already have the right to vote since their husbands vote for them. In 1872, she was taken to court and fined for voting for representatives. In 1876, she delivered one of her most beautiful speeches, stating women have shown equal devotion with man to the cause of freedom and has stood firmly by his side in its defense. Together they have made this country what it is. We ask our rulers at this hour no special favors, no special privileges. We ask justice, we ask equality, we ask that all civil and political rights that belong to the citizens of the United States be granted to us and our daughters forever. Then in 1881, she published her first volume of History of Women's Suffrage. It was 878 pages long, most of which she helped handwrite herself. In 1892, she literally sent letters to each member of Congress asking their opinions on women's rights as well as their reasoning behind their opinions. In 1893, she adopted the battle cry, organize, agitate, educate. By 1896, she had won voting rights for women in 4 different states. These states were Wyoming, Colorado, Idaho, and Utah. In the early 1900s, Susan passed the presidency of the NWSA to her friend Carrie Chapman Catt.
And when I wrote to him, I said, Mr. President, this is probably the last request I will ever make. Before you stop being president, will you please ask Congress to give all women rights and take your place down in history right next to President Lincoln?
Susan's intolerance for inequality did not stop at just women. 10 days after starting a tour to speak against slavery, she had to cancel the rest of her speeches due to angry mobs appearing at the speeches. They were so dangerous that she needed armed escorts just to reach her hotel.
I realized she was the best person I ever met. She seemed to me everything that a human being can be. A leader to live and die for. I followed wherever she led.
This is how Ms. Carrie Thomas described Susan, while the New York Sun also described her as a lady whose word will everywhere be believed by those who know anything of her character.
I died on March 15th, holding my best friend's hand.
She passed away in 1906 with her friend Anna by her side. Clearly, she was a very outspoken and tenacious woman. However, without her dedication in this lifelong journey that she created for herself, we would not have been guaranteed the right to vote 14 years after her passing. She may not have been there to see the fruits of her effort. However, she will never be forgotten for all the work that she put into what we currently have today.
That's all, folks.